Hi everybody. We are going to continue talking about the overhead application, whether the overhead is under-applied or over-applied in this example. And what we are looking at right now is different overhead sources, and I categorize them by color into two on purpose. The first category is basically looking at the costs that we need to assign to the product as they relate to manufacturing. Hence, these are product costs. Okay, these are the ones that we need to have in our manufacturing overhead account, as opposed to sales rep salaries and administration office's depreciation is period cost, and we need to assign these costs after gross margin, so after cost of goods sold. Now, in the problem, we are told that the overhead applied is $15 per direct labor hour, and we are also given the direct labor hour right here. So our overhead application rate is predetermined over rate is $15, and direct labor total activity base in this case is $10,000. Now let's take a look at the overhead account, the temporary account that we need to close at the end of the year. On the debit side, I have the actual overhead, and on the credit side, I have the applied overhead. Easy way to remember this is sometimes the debit versus credit get confused on the T accounts. I remember Washington DC and D and C right here, so it starts with D, debit, and then C is the credit. Now on the actual overhead side, we are going to have indirect materials, indirect labor, depreciation of plant, manufacturing related, utilities of plant, manufacturers related, supervisory plant, again manufacturing related, and factory rent. All these are the actual cost that we are accumulating on the actual side. On the applied overhead side, what we are doing is we are applying overhead $15 per direct labor hour multiplied by the activity base, $10,000. So the applied overhead turns out to be $150,000. If I add the actuals up, it is $140,000 actual overhead versus $150,000 applied overhead. I clearly applied overhead more than the actual, so it's over applied. You don't have to remember whether it's a debit or credit. All you need to do is look at whether you applied overhead more than the actual. So in this case, the answer is yes, so it's over applied. Now what we are going to look at next is we are going to see how we are going to close this temporary account. Let's assume it's end of the year and we have $10,000 applied overhead, over applied, and I need to close this. In order to close this, since it's a credit, I need to debit this account. Once I debit this account during the closing process, I need to credit something else, and the easiest way is to credit cost of goods sold, and that's what's happening right here. So all I need to do is to look at cost of goods sold and say, okay, I over applied, so I inflated cost of goods sold at the beginning. Now by crediting cost of goods sold, which is an expense account, I'm bringing it in line with the actual, the reality. That's how you can remember that as well. And now my temporary overhead account balance is 0, and I made the necessary adjustment to cost of goods sold. There are other ways or more complex ways to close this account, where you can distribute the $10,000 to different inventory accounts, one being work in process inventory, the other one is finished goods, and the third one is cost of goods sold. We are not going over that in this particular example, but what you do is based on different weights of what they have as closing balances, you can do that. We are going to go the easy way, and we are going to close the account by just applying the reverse of what we are doing to the overhead account to cost of goods sold. One final piece is I've written it here. It's basically an expense account again. 10,000 over applied meant cost of goods sold was inflated, overestimated by $10,000. By crediting the account, we are actually decreasing cost of goods sold and hence bringing the overestimated cost of goods sold in line with actual.